Welcome to Legal Talk, and this one is especially for our small business owners. The question we ask today: why should a small business register with the Consumer Goods and Services Ombud? To tell us all about it is Janusz Luterek from Hahn Attorneys. Nice to chat to you, Janusz, for the very first time in 2023.
Yes, good to chat to you as well. Amazing how time flies. It's almost Easter again, the year just keeps on rolling.
Yeah, January actually just flew by, and we're almost into February. It's just insane, hey? It's almost like the world is spinning faster and faster. Yes, Janusz, as a small business, how do I deal with consumer complaints?
So what small business owners need to understand is just because you're a small business doesn't mean you fall outside the law on consumer rights and claims for defective products or poor quality of work. Even the smallest business, a so-called eenmanszaak, still has obligations to provide safe, good quality products and services. For example, a tuisnywerheid or a restaurant must provide safe food, otherwise a consumer would have a legal claim against them if they get food poisoning or if they break a tooth or something like that. If you're a roof contractor, you must properly repair a roof, and if not, the consumer could demand you come back and repair it or refund them, and they can go and get someone else to finish the job. So the key, therefore, is to deal with consumer complaints quickly and without confrontation to try to resolve the complaints fairly so they don't take up too much of your time when you could be working on other jobs and making more money. I think it's important to understand that there's no business in the world that doesn't have problems. Problems will arise. The difference between a good business and a bad business is how do you deal with the problems when they arise.
So true. Now, if there was one critical issue you would advise small businesses to do to avoid conflicts with consumers, what would that be?
So it all starts in the beginning, as one would want to say, You always have to have quotations that you give to clients, and these should be as detailed as possible. List everything that is included in what you're going to do and everything that is excluded. If there's anything that you feel may be a problem, alert the consumer in writing that this will be done on a best effort basis, but if there's an issue later, it may not work out. For example, if there's a leaking roof, but actually the branding in the roof is warped, then you provide a cost estimate to seal the roof, but you also provide a cost estimate to do the whole job properly, including, for example, replacing the branding. You'll note I seem to know a lot about this because I had a problem like this recently at my own house.
Okay.
So ideally, you want to have this in a contract. And the contract should include a dispute resolution clause, which says how complaints or disputes will be dealt with internally. What I mean by that is between you and the business owner, or between the business owner and the customer, before anything escalates. You don't want to get to a situation where things have to go to court. The client says, look, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. You're wasting my time, or you're not answering me. I'm going to go to court. And please don't get me wrong. I understand you're a small business. I don't mean that you must have a 25-page contract. All you need is something simple, but it must be clear and it must be easy to understand. If you're a company that's only selling food, as I said, a tuisnywerheid or a restaurant, make sure that what you're doing is legally compliant. If you're selling foods which are packaged, make sure they have expiry dates, make sure they have allergen warnings. If it's something you have to still cook at home, make sure they have clear cooking instructions. This is where most of the complaints for this type of product arises. And of course, also ensure that the description of the food is accurate so that the consumer gets what was described. For example, on a menu, make it clear what they're going to get, or on a label of prepackaged foodstuff, again, accurately describe what they're going to get. Now, it sounds like I've said a lot, but really all I'm saying to you is, before you start, make sure the consumer, your customer, understands what they are going to get.
So, Janusz, what can a consumer do if they cannot settle the differences through internal measures such as discussions with the owner? What can they do?
Yeah, so if you're a business owner and you're unreasonable, you simply ignore the complaint or you try to fob them off. Well, depending on how big the matter is, a consumer could sue you in the small claims court. And that, of course, doesn't cost the consumer almost anything. I think they have to pay 75 or 90 Rand to get the summons issued.
Wow.
But if the claim is bigger, they could go see their attorney and sue you in the magistrate's court. Or please not, but maybe even in the High Court if the claim is big enough. So, you can see that if you're not resolving the problem, it can escalate and become a really big issue for you too. But besides going to court, a consumer could lodge a complaint with the consumer protector. Now, many of you may not be aware, but in terms of the Consumer Protection Act, in every province, there is something called the Office of the Consumer Protector. And a consumer can go and lodge a complaint at the Office of the Consumer Protector, or in some provinces they're not that effective, they may go and lodge a complaint at the National Consumer Commission. Of course, the consumer could lodge a complaint with the Consumer Goods and Services Ombudsman, which is what we are talking about today, as that is a simple online procedure and also costs nothing. There are many options for consumers, but the sooner you resolve the problem with the consumer, the less of this you will have to deal with.
So what is the Consumer Goods and Services Ombud, and do they have legal authority over small businesses?
Yeah, it's a good question. Many people think, well, the Consumer Goods and Services Ombud must be there if I have a complaint against a listed JSE company or a big retailer or a big motor dealer. But in fact, that's not true. The CGSO, which is the acronym for Consumer Goods and Services Ombud, was created under the Consumer Protection Act to mediate disputes between consumers and businesses of any size. And all businesses which sell goods or provide services must legally register with the CGSO. There is an annual subscription fee, but for small businesses, it could be for free. So the way the CGSO works is depending on your annual turnover, either there is no subscription fee, or if you're quite a small business and you're above the threshold, there will be a small subscription fee. And as the business gets bigger, the annual cost gets higher. But I think for most of the people that are listening to this talk today, the subscription could actually be free. The CGSO will receive complaints online at www.cgso.org.za, and I'll repeat it again a bit later. And then they evaluate the complaint, and they will write to the business owner against whom the complaint was made to hear their side of the story. So it's not just a matter of the Ombud receives a complaint and then writes to you and says, give them back their money. It doesn't work like that. The CGSO Ombud will then try to mediate a solution. So they would have received the complaint, they will have written to you, you will get a chance to answer, and they will try to get an amicable solution to the problem. But if a mediated solution cannot be found, then they will issue a recommendation, and the consumer can then take this recommendation and lodge a complaint with the National Consumer Commission. So ideally, as a small business, you don't want this to escalate past the mediation stage because it does take time. You've got to fill in paperwork. Whereas if you're dealing at the mediation stage, it can still be resolved with a neutral, logical person in the saddle, as they say.
Our final question for today. As a small business, should I register with the CGSO, and what other advantages are there, Janusz?
Yeah, so all businesses that sell goods or offer services should register with the CGSO because it's a legal requirement. And if you go on to www.cgso.org.za, you can find the application form and you register. My advice to small business is that when you have a consumer who just won't accept your explanation, and this is really an important point because I sometimes get called in by businesses and they say, I don't know what to do. This consumer's request is so outrageous, it's got no bearing on reality. but they just won't listen. I've explained to them over and over again, you ordered this product, we gave you the description. It's not our fault that you think it's not what you wanted. It's what you bought from us. So it's very important that when the consumer won't listen, or their claims are excessive, maybe they would be entitled to a 5,000 Rand or a 2,000 Rand, but they watch a lot of American TV. They think they're going to get $1 million.
Yeah.
So in those cases, as a small business, you can actually recommend to the consumer and you can say, you know what? We're obviously not going to resolve this by talking to each other. Let's stop fighting. Go on to www.cgso.org.za and lodge your complaint, and then an impartial person will consider this complaint and come up with a recommendation. And my experience has been that these people at the CGSO are completely reasonable. They come up with a realistic solution, and it often helps to diffuse a situation which could otherwise escalate and even end up in court and end up taking a lot of your time. But of course, you need to be a member of the CGSO to make use of this service.
Okay, so that's cgso.org.za. That's where you can go and register. Very, very informative legal talk once again, Janusz. Thank you so much for your time, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. It was great chatting to you again.
Are you or your business in trouble and struggling to find a solution? Call Hahn & Hahn Attorneys as we assist clients in finding solutions. We specialize in consumer and food law, commercial and construction law, forensic investigations and administrative law. Visit hahnlaw.co.za. That's HAHN. We assist clients nationwide. Hahn & Hahn Attorneys, because we care. Don't miss Legal Talk with Hahn & Hahn Attorneys, Wednesday mornings at 10 on eRadio.